Holy cow, there's a lot going on, so let's get right into it for a Wednesday evening. Very interesting conversation coming up with a couple of important guests who are going to talk to us about, history, race relations, and some of the contemporary controversies of the day and where we're going in the future. I know that's a broad spectrum, but we'll kind of narrow it down for you. And there's a big event in a place that you may want to go tomorrow to talk about some of these matters, and we'll tell you all about it. It's great to have you on board on Dan York's State of Mind, weeknight 7:30, replayed at 11:30 on MyRI-TV. Wow, from Aaron Hernandez all the way down to the Paw Sox, a lot of stuff happening. Let's go to the rundown and take a look at some of the things that are in the headlines today. Obviously, there's a verdict today, and the world is talking about that. What was really, I think, very compelling about the proceedings in Fall River today was a mother's forgiveness, and we'll play that for you if you haven't seen it already. And then what was just absolutely bizarre and embarrassing, I think, to the judicial system was the jury's press conference. What is that? This is a concern. I get why they're doing it, but I don't know about this one. And the hockey team got a nice celebration one more time last night. Your state of mind is important to us. We'll talk about the things that you're talking about, and we'll get on. We'll also make mention of what's going on with this Paw Sox deal. They had a press conference earlier today, just prior to our taping of the broadcast, and some numbers are coming out and some drawings are coming out, and I'll have that for you on one more thing at the end of our show tonight. The Hernandez verdict, yes. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. Odin Lloyd lost his life more than 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and Aaron Hernandez will now pay the price with, well, a long stay in jail for the rest of his living life. Here was the verdict.
On indictment 2013-983-A, charging the defendant Aaron Hernandez with murder, what say you, Madam Foreperson? Is the defendant not guilty, guilty of murder in the first degree, or guilty of murder in the second degree?
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
They do their best to just kind of keep their composure, but, the gulp was semi-apparent. And, of course, for those of you who like to watch the courts, you study the defendant and the defense team, and, the tweeters are all, every eye blink is being reported out there. But there's an irony in where he's going to go.
Mr. Hernandez, an indictment BRCR 2013-0983-A, where you're charged with the crime of murder, the jury returning a verdict of murder in the first degree. And in consideration of the crime for which you now stand committed, you are sentenced by order of the court as follows. You are committed to the MCI Cedar Junction for the term of your natural life without the possibility of parole.
Not too far from Gillette. Interesting, huh? He will also stand trial in a double murder that he's accused of in Boston, but that's fait accompli because they're throwing away the key on him anyway. However, those folks, the victims and their families, still have due process coming. What was a fascinating thing today, I think, was Ursula Ward, the mother of Odin Lloyd, who offered her forgiveness in the courtroom. It was touching.
The day I laid my son Odin's life to rest, I felt my heart stop beating for a moment. I felt like I wanted to go into that hole with my son, Odin. I will never have a grandchild from my son or grandchildren. I forgive the hands of the people that had a hand in my son's murder.
That should not be underestimated and undervalued, that a mother has the compunction, the faith, and the overall character to offer forgiveness. A lot of us couldn't do it, and I honor her for it. What I don't honor is the jury's behavior afterwards. I know the judge said, listen, you can go downstairs, the media's agreed to see you down there. If you don't want to talk to the media, let them know, or they could follow you out of the building. So they all went down, and all of a sudden, there was their 15 minutes of fame. Look at the behavior of this jury.
Was there any yelling? Anybody get really angry at each other?
We can't talk about that.
Did that picture of Aaron coming from the basement, did that thing in his hand look like a gun to you?
At which time?
Yeah, which one are you talking about?
What video?
Came up.
When I saw that, I almost fell over. This is a solemn event, a murder trial, and I understand they've been holed up for 2.5 months, and I understand that they had 7 days of deliberation, and I understand it's springtime, and I understand all of that, and I don't know what else I'm supposed to understand. That was sickening. It's reflective of the 15 minutes of fame mentality in our population today. It's everybody's got to be a star, and people just don't understand what basic values are anymore. I mean, can you explain it? Feedback to me on your state of mind, because I just don't. We talked about it on the radio today, and everybody's reaction was about the same and visceral. Crazy. Anyway, Motel 6, big controversy with 75 arrests in the last year, and in Warwick, you've seen the headlines and all of this. But here's the result of the mediation between the Motel 6 corporate owners and the city of Warwick. Listen to this from Eyewitness News.
Motel 6 representatives traveled more than 1,700 miles from Dallas to meet with Warwick city leaders to work collaboratively in addressing the motel's issues. Going forward, Motel 6 won't rent rooms to guests arrested for serious crimes. It will provide its guest list to the police department on a daily basis. And also on a daily basis, off-duty Warwick police officers will provide security. And then the ACLU came out with a response. Here's a headline from them. And in at least part, I have to agree with the ACLU. I mean, I don't necessarily think that if I stay at the Motel 6 that my name needs to be released to the Warwick or any other police department. I understand what the security issues are here, but I would think that minimally they would advise everybody that's checking into that hotel that their names are going on a list to the Warwick police. Doesn't that make sense? Really? All right. PC had a celebration, and they deserve it. And, they didn't have it at Alumni Hall. I mentioned that yesterday. They had it at Schneider Arena, which makes sense because that's where they play hockey.
Being back at school and sharing this with the school and students, alumni, everyone's been great, and it's just great to have all the support and bringing this back for the school.
It's unbelievable to have them share this moment with us, and just their support throughout this whole process has made this such a special thing for all of us.
What has the last 48 hours been like?
It's been crazy. I haven't stopped smiling all weekend for the past 48 hours, and it's just to bring a national championship back to Providence College. I think that's something special.
It certainly is. Certainly, though, there wasn't the kind of crowd that showed up for Saturday night's party in the streets. You'd think that all those kids who made so much of a fuss could have showed up for the party, meaning the nice party, meaning the one at Schneider. But it shouldn't take away from the incredible accomplishment by the PC hockey team. Your state of mind is important to us. 228-1886 is the voicemail. Email me at stateofmind@myeritv.com. Dan York Show, Facebook, and on Twitter. Don't forget the E. And we have a couple of Facebook posts here that are kind of interesting. Radmila says, whoever threw that bottle should do the honorable thing and turn themselves in. Well, not yet. And Gene, who cares about it? They're more important matters, blah, 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 blah. They're always more important matters, Gene. I don't know how to respond to that. Everyone's got a sense of priorities and what's important and what is not. When we come back, an important conversation and an event you may want to see tomorrow. Stay with us. So there's an important event. All these conversations are important about how we're getting along and where we've been and where we are and where we're going. Take a look. You may want to make a note, and we'll put this up one more time before the end of the broadcast tomorrow at the Aldrich House on, it is Benevolent Street in Providence. It's a Brown. It's an East Side thing, right?
It's on the East Side.
Yes, of course. Dr. Greff is here from the Rhode Island Historical Society. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. And Ellie, nice to have you. Appreciate it. From the Roots Cultural Center. You are participating in this event tomorrow. Before I ask any broad questions, what's going on? What's the premise?
We have, this is part of a multi-part series that we have thanks to funding from the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities called Combating Injustice. We started getting together this summer and talking about what's going on and the historical context for it. And this is a talk by Professor Uhuru Williams from Fairfield University, who will be coming to us tomorrow at the Aldrich House to talk about the civil rights context for what's happening today. So giving us some historical background on some of the issues around race and racial injustice that's happening around us in the 21st century.
So this is, for lack of not to be nonchalant, but this is Ferguson, Staten Island, momentum. Now, God forbid, what we saw in South Carolina, which is just, what in the heck was that officer thinking about? All of this is inspiring this conversation?
Very much so. When we got together this summer, Roots Cultural Center had rented Aldrich House this summer to do an event, and we started talking about what was going on, and Ali and his brother Len actually came to us and said, we want to do something about World War I and African Americans in World War I. There'd been a great series in the Projo about World War I. And
that's up your alley, because that's up your alley. Got you. Because of the Rhode Island Historical Society interests.
Exactly. And but we felt like there was room to talk a little bit more about the role that African Americans played in World War I. And we brought in Keith Stokes, who had an amazing presentation on that. And we just started talking a lot more about people not understanding a lot of the context and the backdrop for our history, our collective history.
Tell me about your center. Tell me about your center, then we'll talk more about the issues.
Okay, the Roots Cultural Center is an offshoot of Providence Inner City Arts. We've been in existence for 40 years in the city, putting on different events. And we've started to join forces with the Historical Society to see if we can up the ante a little bit, especially like what you mentioned in the beginning with Ferguson. And and it's not just a black issue that we should be talking about. Look what happened in Tulsa with that fellow that, I think that there's, what I think is happening is...
Pulled the wrong weapon.
No, the one in Tulsa was a fellow that was beaten in the desert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I mean, there's been too many of these
controversial
that's
right. There's been too many. And I feel that, we feel that the dialogue has not been happening, and it should be. We have to talk about these things, and maybe we can short circuit it, with the body cameras and everybody having a cell phone. Things are now, remember, in the old days, used to fall down the steps, right?
Right. No, I get it. I can't figure out if behaviors have changed or this technology is catching a consistent behavior. And that's probably what you folks are talking about, right? What do you think?
We really want to start a dialogue around this because I'm not sure we have the answers for that. What we do know, historically speaking, is that when there has been footage, when there has been photography, when there has been imagery, there's been action. And looking at things like the civil rights movement, we see that the power of the camera, when turned on to acts of brutality or acts of injustice, have raised the knowledge of the nation and really brought some issues to light. We don't know if that's going to happen in terms of, will there be too much and people are just going to tune it out? Is there too much imagery? Are people getting too calloused to what they're seeing?
Well, it's interesting you mention that because here you have this video, we're not showing it, but the South Carolina incident, right? You get this guy that's shooting a guy in the back, and it's almost when you look at the video and you see the horror of this poor man losing his life and going down, being shot in the back, you say, well, at least there was a camera. And he's getting his just murder, charge, but there's not much conversation about it other than, well, God, that guy's got to go. Yeah, like he's got to go. So it works a couple of different ways, doesn't it? The technology settled that case. We didn't have all that video in Ferguson. We had the video in Staten Island. I don't know that we ought to be relying on video to be able to solve the issues. That's what I'm saying.
That's right.
Certainly, yeah.
Right.
But it should be inherent in us that doesn't happen. I think what happened was the lines are being blended. Police apprehend, court punishes, right? And and that's what it should be right now.
Well, police apprehend, court determines whether the police should have apprehended.
Yep, and then
Adjudicates.
Then
right?
adjudicate the punishment or whatever, innocent.
Hmm.
But I think everything is being done right up front, right, with the beatings, the shootings. You know, I think there's a little bit of a blending there that shouldn't be going on.
Not sure what you mean by the blending. I'm still trying to figure out what you mean by that.
Well, I'm talking about police brutality. That's a blending. You know, you shouldn't. You know, if we're going to arrest somebody, arrest them. Right? That's the job. You know, if I'm a cop, I'm going to arrest you. You
Right.
broke the law, I'm going to arrest you.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to. My job isn't to beat you.
Oh no, right, right.
My job is to arrest you. The court is going to administer the next phase of adjudication, like you said, and ultimate punishment.
Right. These conversations are so broad, they're so deep, they're so detailed, and you don't solve them in 13 minutes of television time. We'll come back. We'll remind you about tomorrow night's event. And I got a few more questions. Stay with us. You know, the notion of combating injustice is, that's a big one. I'll ask my guests, and we'll tell you about this event tomorrow night that you may want to show up for and have part of the conversation. Listen to this presentation by the Fairfield University professor. When we have the series of news events that get nationwide attention, do we think it ends up being the tip of an iceberg that exists, or have we gotten into a conversation that is unequally intense because we have the stories? In other words, does it reflect what's really going on? Or is it just stuff that got caught and we're overreacting to it?
I think that's a big part of the conversation and the dialogue that needs to be had, because I think there are two sides that feel very strongly either way. Many people have argued that what we're seeing right now, as you say, is the tip of the iceberg, that this indicates that there's this going on in other places that we're not seeing. Whereas other people have said, we've just happened to catch the few bad guys who are out there. And I think it's the case where there's probably both going on. That it's a bigger issue and than we might have imagined, but that's not in any way some kind of excuse to blame everyone for this problem.
Thought on it?
I think that it's an issue that that we're glad that it's come to the front. It's been in the shadows too long, and if we can't, we're not going to correct things if we don't address them.
So you think police brutality is something that has been systemic, and these 3 or 4 national stories are only reflecting something that has been ongoing for years and decades?
I would say, yes, okay, we could say it has been. No, but maybe it's not systemic. And maybe there's a, you can't, one bad cop can't ruin the whole force.
Sure. You bet.
Right? So, we do have, people are going into the law enforcement profession. I have relatives that are in there, and they're trying to do the right thing, and they are doing the right thing every day. But when the camera catches the rogue, that's a good word, right? Because it's not normal, then you have an issue.
Listen, I'm sure tomorrow this presentation that you will have and this discussion will be thoughtful. What I think concerns a lot of people, white and black in all races and ethnicities, is the opportunism that comes along with these stories and the political agendas that run through. And the hyperbole that comes from that and the lack of substance that results from it. Do you feel the same way?
That's exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Is that there are many people with opinions and they voice them loudly. We would never presume to tell people what to think, tell them what their opinions are. That's not our job. But our job, we feel, at the Historical Society is to get people access to people doing the real research, who are studying this thoughtfully, who are looking at all of the sides of these issues and giving them a context so that they can make their own educated opinion, so that they can have a bigger picture and not a gut reaction.
Yeah.
And so that's so often we have a very reactive society right now.
And we don't walk in anybody else's shoes anymore.
Right.
We don't do that at all. We've just gotten so quick with our thinking process. The technology has made, I think, has really changed our wiring. We're not thinking much anymore. We're reacting and we're scoreboarding how the reactions are going. Don't you feel that way?
Knee-jerk situations.
You know, I got the other question I have, and I think this would be fascinating. So HBO runs movies over and over and over and over again, right? And Jackie Robinson has been running perpetually, and I've seen the movie in full probably 20 times. You've probably seen it. It's one of those movies where it's on and you just keep watching it. It is horrifying to look back. It's horrifying to any right-minded individual to see what happened on the bus in Philly, to see what he went through. It is just to your core. It horrifies me.
Dan, you know.
But we've gotten. It seems like we got that part. But there's a whole bigger part, you're saying.
There's a bigger part. Now, remember, during that, the scenes that you saw during the Jackie Robinson, at the same time, the United States Congress was voting down, they wanted to pass an anti-lynch law. It couldn't pass. Right? So, you know, that's where the history comes in. You have to look where the country was at that time.
Well, yeah, I don't mean to be short with you guys. I'd like, after you're done with this, would you come back for a longer conversation? And because I think, I hope you do. You know, history is important in analyzing today.
Exactly.
So it's not like you're just some museum type, you know? You know what I mean? I mean, history is important in analyzing where we are today and where we're going tomorrow. Put it up on the screen again, will you, Laura, just to make sure in case people want to stop by this. And it's not just one presentation. I mean, this has been a series these folks have been doing, but it's at the Aldrich House on Benevolent Street in Providence tomorrow night. Participate and have a voice. But after you're done and you've gotten some notes and you've gotten this presentation, come on back and we'll do a longer show and discuss some of the things that you found, okay?
Wonderful.
Good luck. Thanks. Appreciate it.
That'd be good.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
One more thing. This Bostock deal is hot. We'll talk about it next. So, yeah, one more thing. Late in the afternoon, the Paw Sox Ask, if you will, came out. And first, let me soften you up with some nice pictures. Here's what that we were able to generate. First of all, there's an aerial shot of what would be the downtown proposed stadium. See the short right field porch? You see that nice little walkway over from the other side of the river? It's pretty cool. So the East Siders could walk down and through it. Let's just kind of go through them, Laura, real quick. Now, that's a beautiful rendering. I mean, there's this park, there's picnic tables. It's gorgeous, you got to admit. Absolutely is. Next one. Doesn't that look impressive? Don't you think that would be something that would add to the morale of the city of Providence and the state of Rhode Island? And it's multi-purpose. That's a football field in there. If you see on the right-hand side inside the stadium, that's a temporary spectator area, you know, seats put up for the football. And look at the walkway across. It's cool. And then there you have the baseball rendition. So that's kind of neat. But here's the thing. The ask is, they say they're going to spend $85 million in building the stadium and taking care of some of the sewer and gas lines. Okay, but they want the state to lease the ballpark from them at $5 million a year, and then a $1 million lease back from the team to the state, leaving a $4 million payment by us, the taxpayers, for 30 years, while concessions and other state sales tax items will supplant $2 million. We got to look, before we jump ugly at the numbers, I think we got to look at the numbers, and we'll try to do that tomorrow on the radio at noon on WPRO. Actually, we have the Radiothon. We'll do it on Friday, but we'll do it here on TV tomorrow night. Got it? Got to go.